Finally tonight, as promised, a special comment on Senator Clinton's assassination remark to the editorial board of the Argus Leader newspaper of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Once again, it was this. Asked if her continuing fight for the nomination against Senator Obama hurts the Democratic Party, she replied, quote, "I don't, because again, I've been around long enough. You know, my husband did not wrap up the nomination in 1992 until he won the California primary somewhere in the middle of June, right? We all remember Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June in California. You know, I just don't understand it. You know, there's lots of speculation about why it is." The comments were recorded, and we showed them to you earlier, and they are online as we speak. She actually said those words. Those words, Senator, you actually invoked the nightmare of political assassination. You actually invoked the specter of an inspirational leader at the seeming moment of triumph for himself and a battered nation yearning to breathe free, silenced forever. You actually used the word assassination in the middle of a campaign with a loud undertone of racial hatred and gender hatred and political hatred. You actually used the word assassination in a time when there is a fear, unspoken but vivid and terrible, that our again troubled land and fractured political landscape might target a black man running for president, or a white man, or a white woman. You actually used those words in this America, Senator, while running against an African-American man whom against the death threat started the moment he declared his campaign. You actually used those words in this America, Senator, while running to break your greatest glass ceiling and claiming there are people who would do anything to stop you. You, Senator, never mind the implications of using the word assassination in any context relative to Senator Obama. What about you? You cannot say this. The references, said her spokesperson, were not in any way weighted. The allusions, said Mo Elithe, are, quote, historical examples of the nominating process going well into the summer, and any reading into it beyond that would be inaccurate and outrageous. I'm sorry, there is no inaccuracy. Not for a moment does any rational person believe Senator Clinton is actually hoping for the worst of all political calamities. Yet the outrage belongs not to Senator Clinton nor her supporters, but to every other American. Firstly, she has previously bordered on the remarks she made today, then swerved back from them and the awful skid they represented. She said in an off-camera interview with Time on March 6th, primary contests used to last a lot longer. We all remember the great tragedy of Bobby Kennedy being assassinated in June in L.A. My husband didn't wrap up the nomination in 1992 until June, also in California. Having a primary contest go through June is nothing particularly unusual. We will see how it unfolds as we go forward over the next 3 to 4 months. In retrospect, we failed her when we did not call her out for that remark, dry and only disturbing inside the pages of a magazine. But somebody obviously warned her of the danger of that kind of rhetoric. After the Indiana primary on May 7th, she told supporters at a Washington hotel, sometimes you got to calm people down a little bit, but if you look at a successful presidential campaigns, my husband did not get the nomination until June of 1992. I remember tragically when Senator Kennedy won California near the end of that process. And at Shepherdstown, West Virginia, on the same day, she again avoided the word assassination. You know, I remember very well what happened in the California primary in 1968. As you know, Senator Kennedy won that primary. On March 6th, she had said assassinated. By May 7th, she had avoided it. Today, she went back into an awful well. There is no good time to recall the awful events of June 5th, 1968 in Los Angeles, of Senator Bobby Kennedy, happy and alive, perhaps for the first time since his own brother's death in Dallas in 1963, galvanized to try to lead this nation back from one of its darkest eras, only to fall victim to the same scourge that took that brother and Martin Luther King. There is no good time to recall this, but certainly to invoke it 2 weeks before the exact 40th anniversary of the assassination is an insensitive and heartless thing, and certainly to invoke it 3 days after the awful diagnosis and heartbreaking prognosis for Senator Ted Kennedy is just as insensitive and just as heartless. And both actions open a door wide into the soul of somebody who seeks the highest office in this country, and through that door shows something not merely troubling, but frightening and politically inexplicable. What, Senator, do you suppose would happen if you withdrew from the campaign and Senator Obama formally became the presumptive nominee and then suddenly left the scene? It doesn't even have to be the dark curse upon the land you implied today, Senator, nor even an issue of health. He could simply change his mind, or there could unfold that perfect storm scandal your people have often referenced, even predicted. Maybe he could get a better offer from some other and wiser country. What happens then, Senator? You are not allowed back into the race? Your delegates and your support vanish? The Democrats don't run anybody for president? What happens, of course, is what happened when the Democrats' vice presidential candidate in 1972, Senator Thomas Eagleton, had to withdraw from the ticket after it had been proved he had not been forthcoming about previous mental health treatments. George McGovern simply got another vice president. Senator, as late as the late summer of 1864, the Republicans were talking about having a second convention to withdraw Abraham Lincoln's renomination and choose somebody else, because until Sherman took Atlanta in September, it looked like Lincoln was going to lose the election to George McClellan.